to us. Abide with us, O Lord Emmanuel. Be born in us today. Lord, make us alive. Make us alive by your word, to your word, as we receive your word. Lord, you are the light of the world, and we want to stand in it this morning. And all God's people said. Friends, our scripture this morning comes from 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 8 through 15. You can find a copy of it in your bulletin. Before I read this, I wonder if I could just be a little honest and a little bit vulnerable with you guys right now, because the truth is, I am exhausted right now. We are just at a time where we're up lots and lots of times a night and visiting different sectors of the upstairs, and that I want to be that pastor that just shows up and is just like so pumped and able to bring like so much energy and capture your attention with the word. And this feeling right now, that's not where I am this morning. But I want to say that because the word, I believe that nevertheless God has a word for us today. So I'm just asking for you to listen loudly today for the word of the Lord that is coming. Can we listen together to what the Lord says? Don't let it escape your notice, dear friends, that with the Lord, a single day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years like one single day. The Lord isn't slow in keeping his promises, as some think of slowness, but he is patient towards you, not wanting anyone to perish, but for all to change their hearts and lives. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. On that day, the heavens will pass away with a dreadful noise. The elements will be consumed by fire, and the earth and all the works done on it will be exposed. Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what sort of people ought you to be? You must live holy and godly lives, waiting for and hastening the coming day of God. Because of that day, the heavens will be destroyed by fire, and the elements will melt away with flames. But according to his promise, we are waiting for a new heaven and a new earth where righteousness is at home. Therefore, dear friends, while you are waiting for this to happen, make every effort to be found by him in peace, pure and faultless. Consider the patience of the Lord to be salvation, just as our dear friend and brother Paul wrote to you according to the wisdom given to him. Friends, this is the word of the Lord. If you are thankful, say thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
Peter wrote these words to a bunch of people who were tired of waiting. This book was written, it's one of the later books that was written in the New Testament, probably sometime around the end of the first century. And you might say, so why does that matter? Well, it matters because the first generations of Christians were starting to die. And the first Christians had this one bedrock hope that they would see Jesus again, that Jesus would return in their lifetime. And so, for the first year, the first 5 years, the first 10 years of waiting are one thing. But when the waiting gets longer, you start to wonder. You start to wonder, will I ever see what I'm waiting for? The early Christians were at this point where they were wondering, they were really wondering, will we ever see what we're waiting for? Or are we barking up the wrong tree? Did we hitch our cart to the wrong horse? And Peter is writing because I think Peter also knows what this is. Peter, writing this, was at the end of his own life. And he's writing this with the probability that he too would not see Jesus' return in his own lifetime. So this is written in the trenches, as it were. This is written by someone who knows what it is to wait and to wonder. And so the first thing that Peter wants to do is to reframe our sense of this waiting time. And the first thing he says is, well, the truth is that time is different with God. Basically, what to us looks like slowness, to God looks like patience. And this patience that God has is a purpose for it that actually is all about our own good. We'll return to that in a little bit. But this business of this waiting, what is it that the Christians are waiting for? Because when you're waiting for something, what you're waiting for makes all the difference. Because when you're waiting, one of the questions that you ask is, will it be worth the wait? Here is what the Christians were waiting for. See, the Christians had this understanding that there were these two ages, that the present age and the age to come. Now, the present age is the one that you and I know really well. We know the rules of the world. We know the rules and the values and the politics and the powers of this world that you and I live in. And you might be able to boil it down to this: bullies get ahead. Bullies get ahead. We've all been there. We've all been in the presence of a bully that's moving their way forward in life, whether that's on the playground or in the boardroom. This age, this time that you and I know, that we live in, more often than not, it's the bully that moves the ball down the field. See, when we sing that Jesus, that wherever there are meek souls, Jesus will still enter in, we're like, yeah, that makes sense. Jesus will go to the meek soul. But when we say the meek will inherit the earth, you've got to be kidding. That doesn't line up with my experience of the world. There's this age, the current age, an age that is dominated by politics of power, where the strong will take from the weak whatever they can. But these Christians had a hope. They had a hope. And it's signaled by this day of the Lord, which Peter puts in these really strong terms. Did you catch it? Peter says the day of the Lord is coming. And on the day of the Lord, the heavens and the earth are going to be burned up. The elements are going to be dissolved. Now it's worth noting that when Peter says the elements here, like, he's not actually thinking periodic table of the elements. He's not thinking about... that wasn't the categories he's working with. The word there, he's just meaning sort of like the basic stuff, like the letters of the alphabet. He's talking about the basic building blocks of the world as we know it is going to be turned upside down. And the clearest picture that Peter gives us here of what this age to come is going to look like is in verse 13. The difference that Peter highlights between the current age that we know of and the age to come is that Peter says, but according to the promise, we are waiting for a new heaven and a new earth. Listen for it. Where righteousness is at home. This is the defining difference between the current age and the age to come. See, in the life, the world that you and I live in, righteousness is not at home. We like to say, and we raise our kids to be good and upright, moral people, and we tell them that there is reward for living well and rightly. But if you're anything like me, you always have this little tick in the back of your brain because I've seen the world and I know how things actually get done. And the people who make it the farthest are usually not the ones that have totally followed all the good Christian rules. We live in a world where righteousness is not at home. But Peter says to act as if this is the way it will always be is a huge mistake. To live your life, to plan out your life as if the bullies are going to end up on top. He says, that's a huge mistake. It's because there is a day coming, the day of the Lord, when this current arrangement of things is going to get turned on its head. And there is a day coming where righteousness will be at home. So, How do we live our lives now? Sometimes Christians can get caught in this state of knowing that we're a little bit in kind of an in-between place. That we know that Jesus has changed things and that we're on board with that, and we know that the fullness hasn't yet come, but we're kind of left wondering, so what do we do now? And sometimes Christians can push this really far and think of Christianity as basically just like getting your card punched, like getting your ticket, your heaven ticket punched. And then you can say, okay, I guess I'm good. I've got my heaven ticket punched. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going after I die. And that's really the main thing, I guess. Peter says no. Peter says there is an enormous amount to do right here, right now. He said because all this stuff, all these empires that are being built up right now, all these castles and all these fortresses, all these legacies that are being built on this old way of doing things, like that's literally all going to go up in a puff of smoke. No. Peter says, right now, while you're waiting for things to happen, make every effort. While we're waiting for these things, Peter says, we're not just, sitting on the couch waiting for God to do something. We're not just lazing around. We're not just disengaging from this world. No, he says, make every effort to be found in peace. To be found in peace. Because this is what is going to last. Because this is the architecture of the age to come. Have you ever broken up a fight? You put yourself at a little bit of risk. Whether those punches are physical or verbal. Getting in the way of something. Being a peacemaker always involves risk. That always involves actual effort. But this is what Peter says we are supposed to be about. This is how we are supposed to busy ourselves, by getting our hands dirty with the work of building according to the age to come. This reminds me a little bit of Noah, where he's building this huge boat in the middle of a desert without a cloud in the sky, and everyone is looking at him thinking, you're a lunatic. Noah was building an architecture for a future age. So often we get caught up into believing that the rules of the age that we live in right now, that's all there is to it. That's all we have to work with. Right? It's really easy to get sucked into that because that's all the major conversation. All of our public conversations are swirling inside the rules of the current age. I want us to hear from Peter this morning, because this is what the world needs. The world needs a people that believes that in Jesus, the new age is coming, has been established, it's on its way, it's not a maybe anymore. Because of Jesus, it's a sure and it's a certain thing. That day is coming when the current order is going to be turned on its head. And what we need is just a people who actually believe that, who are willing to spend their capital on projects that are building according to the age to come instead of the current age. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical any more than Noah's Ark was. And yet, it is a faithful response to the reality of Jesus Christ. Just one last thing. If any one of us tries to do this and live this way on our own, we are not going to get very far. We need each other to band together, to keep reminding each other, because there are going to be days where you show up and you're like, I am exhausted, and I don't know if I can do this today. And that's when we need each other to say, you know what? I've been there too. But today I see, and I remember, and I'm going to tell you the story again because there is a day that's coming. There is an age coming where there is a king coming and righteousness will be at home. So let's get our hands dirty now. Building with the materials according to the blueprint, according to the architecture of the new creation that has been established in Jesus Christ. And it looks crazy right now, but one day this is the only thing that's going to be left standing. So, where is the brokenness in your life? Because peace is the opposite of brokenness. You know this, right? When the Bible talks about peace, it doesn't just mean a ceasefire. It means wholeness. It means health. Peace, prosperity, fullness in every way. Where is the brokenness in your life? Where is it in your own soul? Where is it in your relationships? Where is the dirt that God is asking you to get your hands dirty in? What's the effort that you need to make peace right where you are? Think about it. Talk about it.